today's episode of Human Heart. So, what are the learning outcomes of today's lesson? So, at the end of today's topic, we will be knowing about the position, the shape, and the size of the heart. We will know about the external structure of the heart, about the internal structure of the heart, the chambers of heart, what are the great blood vessels which are related to heart, and the apertures and valves in heart. So all this, whatever I have told here, we will be discussing this with the help of the diagrams. So I know everyone is following a textbook, so please go through your textbook and refer to my video to understand this topic very clearly. So let us move on to the first slide. Now here we are going to discuss about the position, shape and size of the heart. Now let us see the position of the heart. The human heart, we can see it is located between the lungs. So let us assume that these two are lungs. It is located in between the lungs in the thoracic cavity. This is the thoracic cavity and its lower end is inclined towards the left. So this end is inclined towards the left part. Now heart is hollow and it is a muscular organ. So what type of muscle it is? It is a fibromuscular organ and it is somewhat, we can see the shape of the earth is somewhat conical in shape. Is it clear? So the base or the lower end is inclined towards the left and the heart is a fibromuscular organ. Now it is we can see that it is about the size of one's fist. Now if you are closing your hand and you are making a fist, so your heart will be the size of your fist. So if you look at a kid and tell him or her to make a fist, so their heart will be almost the same size of the fist. So the heart is a hollow organ which is about the size of a fist, which measures 12 centimeter in length and 9 centimeter in breadth. So the lengthwise it is 12 centimeter. Now follow my pointer here. And this one is 9 centimeter and the weight of the heart, it will be approximately 300 gram in an adult human being. Now is it clear? Now let us see, now this outer covering or the membrane by which it is enclosed is called the pericardium. Now it protects the heart from, what does it do? What is the role of pericardium? So it protects the heart from any type of mechanical injury. So the outer covering or the layer of the heart is pericardium. So the space between the pericardium and the pericardial membranes is called the pericardial space, which is filled up with pericardial fluid. So what is the function of this fluid? It keeps the heart moist so that it does not, it should not be dry enough, and it reduces the friction between the heart wall. So there is always a friction between the heart wall and the surrounding tissues when the heart is beating. So constantly the heart is beating. There should be a friction in this thoracic cavity, but no, there is no friction because there is pericardium, the outer layer, and between this muscular wall there is a space filled with pericardial fluid. So is it clear to everyone? And the human heart is made up of muscles called cardiac muscles, or we can also say that myocardia, which contract rhythmically by a self-generated impulse. So the impulse is generated within the heart itself. It is a self-generated impulse, and the cardiac muscle or the myocardia, it contracts rhythmically. So is it clear with everyone whatever we have discussed now about the basic position of the heart with its pericardial membrane, pericardial fluid and all? So it is clear. I think I've made it clear. So please read it again from your textbook so that it will be very clear to you. Now we will move on to the next slide. Now let us see the external structure of the heart. Now the human heart is a 4-chambered organ. So here we can see that it is divided into two halves with the help of what we can say, that intra-auricular septum in between the two auricles, and there is intraventricular septum between the two ventricles. So here we can see this is the left atrium. If you are following my pointer, this is the right atrium. This one is the left ventricle and this one is the right ventricle. So externally we can see there are several veins and several arteries which are here and there coming in and moving out of the heart, taking the blood. So let us not go in details with this in this slide itself. We will study in details with all the veins and arteries, but this is just you have an overview of the external structure of heart. This is, if we are telling that this is the pulmonary trunk, this is the aorta, this is the superior vena cava. We can see that this is these are pulmonary veins or right pulmonary veins, and these are left pulmonary veins. This is the left atrium, this one is the right atrium, and this is the right coronary artery. This one is the right coronary artery. This one is the left cardiac vein. This one is this blue color is the left cardiac vein. Now this is right ventricle and this is left ventricle. Okay, is it clear? So just you have a clear picture of the heart here, so that when we are moving to the next slide with the internal structure, we can make it very clear. Is it clear to everyone? Shall we move to the next slide? Now looking at the internal view of the heart, we can see that it is having 4 chambers, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now 2 auricles and 2 ventricles. You can see this part which is dividing the auricles and the ventricles. When it is in between the 2 auricles, it is called the interauriculum septum, and in between the 2 ventricles it is called, that is the interventricular septum. Now you can see a basic difference between this. See, in between the auricles, as these chambers are very small and they are always the receiving chambers, this part is thin walled. Is it clear? But when it comes to the ventricle, these chambers are quite big and they are having quite like a huge pressure in it. So this wall is quite it is quite durable or quite thick walled chambers. Now ventricles are quite thick walled and auricle is thin walled. You can see the outer lining also. Whereas this division of interauricular and intraventricular septum is also we can see that it is obliquely separating these two. Here it is much thinner, and as gradually it comes down, it becomes thicker. Now the wall of the left ventricle is thicker than that of the right ventricle. See, this left ventricle is much thick than that of the right ventricle. And why is it like that? Because the left ventricle has to pump blood to the blood vessels, which in turn carry the blood to the entire body. So it is pumping blood to the aorta, through which to the blood vessels which are carrying to the entire body, and the right ventricle pumps to the pulmonary arteries which carry to the lungs. Okay, so the walls of artery are thinner than that of the ventricles because only they have to pump blood to the ventricles. So there is no other way out from the auricles to any other part. So the pressure in the auricles is very less compared to that of the ventricles. Is it clear? See, dear children, if you are having any doubts, please do write in my comment box so that in the next part I can clear your doubts. So is it clear? See, the left and the right auricles, very thin outer layer. So they are only pushing blood, they are receiving blood and they are pushing blood into the ventricles. Whereas the ventricle, the left ventricle is having a thick wall because it is pumping blood through the aorta to blood vessels which are pushing the blood throughout our body. Whereas this one, the right ventricle, it is also pushing blood through the pulmonary arteries to the lungs. So this is how the internal structure of the heart we can see. Now let us move on to the great blood vessels of the heart in the next slide. Now in this slide we will be discussing about the blood vessels and valves in the heart. Now let us first concentrate in this superior vena cava. So what does this vein do? It is a prime important vein which brings deoxygenated blood from the head and the upper region of the body. Is it clear? So all the deoxygenated blood or the blood which is mixed with carbon dioxide or carbon dioxide rich blood is brought to the right auricle from this superior vena cava. Now coming down we are seeing inferior vena cava. So what is its function? It brings the deoxygenated blood from the lower region of the body. So all these bloods are being poured into the right atrium. So right atrium at this point of time is filled with all deoxygenated blood. So these all deoxygenated blood gets pushed into the right ventricle, which in turn is again pushed out through the pulmonary artery. So this is the pulmonary artery to the lungs. So this pulmonary artery, it rises from the right ventricle and it carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs for purification. Because when blood is carbon dioxide rich, it is called deoxygenated blood. So it is transferred to the lungs to make it oxygen rich, and then it should be again transmitted to the heart to push it to different parts of the body. So from the lungs again that oxygenated blood is coming through the pulmonary vein. Is it clear? So from the lungs, see here, this is also pulmonary vein. So total 4 pulmonary veins are there. So 1, 2 and 3, 4. So we can say that from each lung 1 pair of pulmonary veins are coming. So one is coming from the left lung and 1 pair is coming from the right lung. So 4 in number, and 2 pairs of pulmonary veins enter into the left auricle with oxygenated blood from the lungs. Is it clear to everyone, students? So see, this left part is totally rich in oxygenated blood, and this right part is totally rich in deoxygenated blood. Now this is receiving blood from the lungs, which is called, we can say it is oxygen rich blood, and it is then again pushed down to the ventricle. This in turn pushes the whole blood through the aorta to different blood vessels which are being passing the blood or transmitting the blood to different parts of the body. So is it clear to everyone? Now this is the aorta which is carrying the oxygenated blood, and this is the pulmonary artery which is carrying the deoxygenated blood to the lungs, and the aorta is carrying this to the whole body as it is the oxygen rich blood, and it carries it to different blood vessels to different parts of the body. Now comes now this is systemic aorta or aorta, what I have told you. It is supplying oxygenated blood to all parts of the body. Now except the lungs, because to the lungs we have seen that deoxygenated blood is being passed on to the lungs for its purification. Now we can here discuss about the valves also. Now let us see what are the valves present here. Now here we can see one valve which is in between the left auricle and left ventricle, which is called the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve. So what is the function of this valve? This guards the opening of the left auricle and the ventricle. So once the blood gushes into the ventricle, these valves get closed, and they are always opening in one side like a door. So they are also attached to a hinge like a door is attached, and they close. So if the ventricular pressure is also too much, the blood will not back flow into the auricle. It will flow directly to the aorta. So here the valve which is working as a door in between the auricle and the ventricle. So left auricle and the left ventricle is the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve. And here we can see this is in between the right atrium and the right ventricle is the tricuspid valve. The function of both the valves are same. They are acting as guards, and these bicuspid and tricuspid valves, these two valves, they allow the blood to pass from auricles to ventricles, and they always prevent the backflow. Now this should be clear to everyone that they are not allowing the blood to backflow. That is, they are stopping the blood to backflow. They are stopping the blood from the ventricle to move on to the auricles again, so that they are creating a huge pressure in the ventricles, which in turn allows them to flow through the pulmonary artery as well as the systemic aorta. Now, in front of the systemic, this pulmonary artery also, there is a valve called the pulmonary valve. So this valve also are present at the base of this pulmonary arches. These valves check the backflow of the blood from this pulmonary artery to the ventricles. So this is the pulmonary valve, and in this aorta, there we are having the aortic valve. This aortic valve also prevents the backflow of the blood from the aorta to the ventricles. So the function of all the four valves is the same, that is preventing the backflow of the blood. From wherever they are passing once, they can't move back. So I think it is clear to everyone. In the last slide, we will just have a quick recap of all these things. In this slide, we will have a quick recap of what we have studied till now. So this heart or this circulation topic is quite interesting topic, and if you are quite clear with this picture of heart, you will be able to do or write any part of this cardiac cycle or whatever I'll be teaching in your future classes. It will be very easier for you. So just let us have a quick recap of this, what we have studied. We have studied this, that heart is four chamber, left atrium, left ventricle and right ventricle. Now here we are having two pairs of pulmonary veins which all are entering to the left atrium, we can say that all are entering here to the left atrium, and here the the inferior vena cava, and this is the superior vena cava. They are entering the right atrium. Now in between the right ventricle and the right auricle, we are having the tricuspid valve. In between the left auricle and the left ventricle, we are having the mitral valve. At the base of the pulmonary artery, we are having the pulmonary valve, and at the base of aorta, we are having the aortic valve. Is it clear now? Now aorta is passing on the oxygenated blood to different parts of the body through blood vessels. The pulmonary artery is taking the deoxygenated blood to the lungs for its getting purified or getting oxygen rich. Now we can see here the left part of the ventricle is a little bit thicker. Outer part is a little bit thicker than the right part because of the pressure difference in the left ventricle and the right. In the left ventricle, the blood pressure is more than that of the right ventricle. Now this is, so we are all clear with all this main vein, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. These are all the pulmonary veins and all. Pulmonary valve I have already discussed in the previous slide, tricuspid valve. This one is the mitral valve. I have already told, between the left atrium and the left ventricle. So what are the functions of the valve? I have told they are preventing all the backflow of the blood from ventricles to the auricles, from the ventricles when they are moving on to the pulmonary artery, that is preventing the backflow of the blood from here to the ventricles again. So I think it is clear. In the left diagram also same thing I have shown you. These are the vena cavas. This is the tricuspid valve. It is open and the blood is gushing into the ventricle. When the mitral valve is open, the blood is gushing into the left ventricle and so on. So this is all about the external and internal structure of the heart. Now in the next slide, we will be discussing about the double circulation and what is it. And we will discuss about the cardiac cycle, which is the most important part of circulatory system. So if you have not gone through all my previous episodes, all my short topics which I have taught till now, artery, veins, ABO blood group system and all, please go through it. Any queries, any doubts, post it, write it in my comment box so that in the next video I can clear all your doubts and we will proceed with a fresh mind and a fresh new lesson ahead. So thank you, and this is all for today. Please go through your textbooks. Once you are done with this structure, internal and external structure of the heart. Thank you.